Hey everyone, it's Dr. DeCubellis from Main Street Chiropractic, and today I am joined with Jason Marker from Marker and Crenell Law Firm. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
No problem. And the reason I wanted to have Jason by is because he is a specialist in work comp injury law, and it's something that I don't think a lot of people know about, and it's really, really important, so I wanted to bring him by. But first, tell us a little bit about how you got involved in this arena.
Well, thanks for asking. I went to law school, and in law school you can study all kinds of different things. I worked with a general practitioner who did a little bit of everything, but I really enjoyed all of the medical that came along with learning about injuries and how people go through them. I like to joke with folks and tell them it's kind of like being a doctor to a certain extent. I mean, I'm certainly not, but I really enjoy the injury aspect of the work, getting to help people when they get hurt, and especially in workers' comp, getting back to work. Making sure they get all the right treatment and get as good as they can get from these injuries that they have. So yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to work comp, I think it's an area that a lot of people don't realize that they need an attorney with.
Yeah.
So what would you say is the biggest reason that people should consult an attorney when they have a work injury?
Because the insurance company is not your friend. And you don't realize that. When you get hurt on the job, you're thinking you get hurt, you work with this employer, that the employer is just going to treat you right. But what happens is every employer in the state of Illinois has to have work comp insurance. And it's the insurance company that's really calling all the shots, telling you what to do, where to go for treatment, paying benefits or not. And many times there's a lot of pitfalls and hoops that you can not jump through properly unless you have a lawyer helping you through it.
And a lot of that too, you bring up a great point, is it's not the employer that's really controlling, it's the insurance company.
Yeah.
And because the employer themselves aren't doctors or attorneys, they just kind of pass the buck to the insurance company and let them kind of have move the process along. So you being the injured employee, you need someone to be looking out for your best interest as well.
Yeah, you got it. I like to tell folks, if you really don't have an attorney looking out for your best interests, then they're going to kind of run roughshod over you and do whatever they want. I see it all too many times. I mean, it's why I have a job, right? Because insurance companies, they're in the business to save money. You might think that they're doing the right thing by you, trying to get you the treatment you need, things like that. But more times than not, there's an end game that they've got in mind that they're trying to save dollars and cents. That's just what it comes down to.
Right.
Yeah.
And one thing that's kind of interesting, some of the things I've seen happen with people that are injured. It doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes what can happen is the first thing is that someone's injured on the job. They're trying to push them to get back to work as quickly as possible,
Yep.
regardless of what kind of injury they have or how injured they are.
Yeah, no, you're right. There's a law in Illinois now that allows employers, and this was changed some years ago, but not long ago, that allows employers to have a company clinic if they want to send you to a dedicated company clinic. And there's many company clinics out there that they will then contract with that have, purposefully an agreement with that employer that they're always going to send their clients back light duty if they can. They're never going to take them off work completely because the insurance company doesn't want to have to pay you if you're off completely. So that's just one of the things out there that happens routinely, that if you're in an injury out there, you're never going to really understand until it happens to you. But you need to know that you actually have the right to go find a doctor of your choice, and you don't have to go to one of those company clinics. And typically a doctor that you seek out on your own is going to do what's best for you. If that means taking you off work and you have to get paid by insurance, then that's what it means, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand, is that you have the right to choose your own doctor.
You got it.
You can still go to that company doctor, but you can also seek a second or third opinion if you'd like as well. And it's always nice to know what your options are.
Yep. No, that's one of the biggest things I recommend with any client coming in is making sure that you get to the right doctor. And because you have up to two choices, but it's whoever they also refer you to, kind of in a chain of referrals, we call it. But because of that, it's important that you get to the right one right away too. And a lot of times, people get hurt and they just want to go to their PCP. And that's not sometimes a horrible option, but I would recommend, you get to the right doc right away. If you hurt your arm, you get to an orthopedic. If you hurt your back, you get to a chiropractor or a spine specialist. You really want to get to the right doctor right away, just because you're limited in these choices. Yeah.
Yeah, and even with that, there's definitely going to be certain physicians that understand these type of injuries better than others. So
Certainly.
making sure you go to someone who does that. Same thing if you're injured and you have a work comp, you're not going to go to someone who does tax law.
Agreed.
Doesn't make sense.
To that point. If you go to your PCP, they're not doing comp very much. They don't know all the insurance, pitfalls, how to get things approved and paid. There's all kinds of things that go into it. So, dealing with a doctor, whether it's a chiropractor, any of these other specialists that do workers' comp, is much better. And that's something that as attorneys, we kind of know who's out there in the community right now. We can get you to the right doc. Yeah.
Now let me ask you about this, because I know this is one thing that a lot of people have a fear of, is that when they're injured and then they feel that their job is kind of threatened to where they have to go back or they'll lose their job even though they may or may not be injured. So what would you advise someone on that?
Well, what I tell people all the time, it's a question I get often with clients, is they can't fire you. The employer cannot fire you just because you file a workers' comp claim. So, the law in Illinois specifically designates that one claim that you could have against your employer for what we call a retaliatory discharge or a wrongful discharge or termination. So they can't fire you just because you file a comp claim. We can help you through, God forbid if they do something like that, help you through that. If it's not our office that handles that kind of a case, I can certainly refer you to somebody that does, but that would be wrongful for any employer to do.
And another thing that's kind of interesting is when it comes to certain, we'll call them industries out there, when it comes to work comp, there might be different kind of things or hoops you have to jump through. What I'm alluding at is when we talk about any kind of government employee, going to specific doctors or things, there might be some that are considered in-network and able to do it, and others that aren't. So it's really kind of important to know, really talk with a legal expert to know what your options are based on the type of industry you're in as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. There's, again, all kinds of contracts out there like that. Depending on the industry, they might want you to go to certain docs. So knowing a professional that can help you through it and tell you where to go can be very helpful, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing, too, is that anytime someone has a work injury, the goal is to make sure they get better as quickly as possible.
You got it.
And part of your job is you want to take some of that anxiety away from them, help them out, because that's the goal. We ultimately want them to get through this situation and resolve. So if there's anything that you can utilize someone of your expertise to help take some of that pressure off of them, that's going to just help them get better.
Yeah, I mean, that's ultimately our goals. We want to make sure people get as good as they can get and get back to work. I mean, that's the whole goal of the comp system. And, for me in my office, of what I do for a living, what I enjoy doing, helping people, that's always my biggest goal, is to try to get people as good as they can get. The physician's got to do the medical part, but if I can help in any way, just because I can help get them to the right people, great. After that, we just want to make sure we get you back to work and allow you to make a living the rest of your life. Yep.
Now, I think one of the other big questions that I get asked a lot is, someone's injured at work.
Yep.
How long do they have before they need to file that claim, and where do you start to see issues at if it goes too long?
Okay. So you've technically by law got 3 years to file a claim, and filing a claim happens with the Illinois Workers' Compensation Commission. So you've got 3 years to file that. But I would say that many times if you wait until the end of that, there can be pitfalls. So you don't want to wait too long. It's kind of like anything else. And the other thing is, if you file it right away, then you've got the advantage. And normally by filing it, you're going to do that with an attorney's office. If you file it right away with an attorney's office, you're going to have the benefit of them working on the case all along with you. Certainly you can file a case on your own and try to deal with it, but I think you're going to run into a lot of pitfalls if you do it that way.
Well, and if you could do it that way very easily, then there would not exist work comp injury attorneys.
You got it.
So it's always good, hire a specialist to do the specialist work.
You got it.
While you can try to do it yourself, I always ask people to, hey, while you could maybe watch a YouTube video and learn how to do surgery on your dog, would you rather do that or go to the expert?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many times with what I do that I'm explaining things to clients, and they're telling me, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how complicated this was, and then they realize, but it's like, hey, yeah, that's why I do what I do for a living, and this kind of a niche, and why, like you said, everybody specializes and has their own thing. Yeah.
And part of that too is just keeping up with the new laws and regulations that come
Yeah.
out. It's not like it's a 2-page document and you know everything there is to do with work comp. It's
Right.
it's a constant, just ever-changing environment that you have to keep up on, and every state's going to be a little bit different. So
Yep.
the expertise is the way to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
So let me ask you this: we talked a lot about the base of how everything works. Is there anything pertinent that we haven't talked about that you think people need to know regarding work comp, either filing a claim, getting in touch with an attorney, or anything in that realm?
I mean, a couple quick things, just tips that I always recommend for clients. One of them is if when you do have a work accident, notify your employer right away, and notify them about every part of your body that you feel pain in. Because I've seen so many times with what I do, later on down the road, maybe they mention one part of their body, but later on down the road, all of a sudden they mention another. Comp is going to red flag that and fight that to death, right? So understandably, they don't want to see gaps and things like that. So just tell them everything right up front. But you do have a duty to notify your employer within 45 days. So notify them, seek treatment right away. Don't wait. A lot of folks out there want to wait because they think, it's going to go away. It's just some nagging pain, right? The reason that you go right away is at least to document it, okay? Even if it does eventually get better and go away, if you don't go document it quick, within a couple days of your accident, again, insurance company's going to red flag things right away. So those are a couple tips that I always tell people.
Yeah, and very important because we always have to plan for the worst.
Yeah.
So even if you don't know if it's going to be a bad injury, get checked out. At least there's documentation that can
Yep.
back it up. And then really important to mention all the places that you were injured, because one area that maybe wasn't as severe as another one, maybe that's the one that becomes more debilitating 6 months down the road or something. So
Yep.
yeah, great tips there. I want to thank you for coming out.
You bet.
If anyone has any questions or wants to get in touch with Jason, his contact information is below. Reach out. As you can see, this is where he specializes. He's an expert, and he'll be more than happy to help you out with work comp claims.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem.
All right.